Um. Hey everybody, it's Kobe. On a small note before I get started, a lot of the videos I'm filming around now are going to be while I'm in quarantine, so all of my siblings are home from school right now, and a lot of my siblings and my parents are home from work right now, so the house is slightly chaotic. You'll probably hear children talking or crying outside. That's fine, don't worry about it, and I'm sorry. So yeah, something I want to talk about today is, how do I phrase this? I've mentioned this in several videos before, but it's essentially I wanted to talk about relating to characters that are in fiction and using those to help you cope, because I know there's a lot of stigma about, adults watching cartoons, which I don't understand, like just different kind of things, and how much you relate or like or care about a character that is in fiction. And I know there's a lot of people who either pretend to think it's weird or do think it's weird, and I kind of just wanted to talk about it because I have a lot of experience with this, especially with some of my mental health things. But essentially, I just wanted to say, first of all, cartoons are always a valid way of portraying any kind of story or idea, and they're not exclusively for children. There's a lot of cartoons that aren't really something I would let a child watch, but that's just my own opinion. And there's a lot of cartoons that, yeah, I'm not going to watch as an adult, but you can, with cartoons and animation, there's so much more that you can actually show and explain, and you can put the story the way you want to put it better than you can with live action. So keep that in mind. The first thing I wanted to talk about is relating to fictional characters. Some people think this is weird. Some people think, we're all crazy. And there's a lot of different ways you might be able to do this. And I did mention in a video almost a year ago now about this girl that's starting this comic series based specifically so that kids can relate their own depression or mental health or experiences with these characters, and that was really good. But I didn't really talk a lot about why I like that so much. So I'm going to talk a lot about my own experiences, and hopefully, yeah. So as y'all know, I have ADHD. I learned about it almost a little over a year ago, and since then, I've been getting way better at managing those symptoms and managing my own mental health. But one thing that was a huge problem in most of my life is irritability, which is a symptom of ADHD. I was constantly angry. I was just angry all the time, and I would yell at people, and I would get upset, and I would get in fights, like not physical fights. I'm not a physical fight guy. Do I look like a physical fight guy? No. But it was just this thing that I did not know how to understand or cope with at all. And then when I was around 13 or 14, I started watching Ninja Turtles, which, yeah, a lot of people are like, it's this super hyped up thing that there's so many different versions of. But in the version that I started watching initially, it was the 2012 CGI cartoon version on Nickelodeon, because that was the one that was currently running. And I found myself relating so much to Raphael, who a lot of people I talked to wondered why, because he's kind of a jerk, and he's just angry all the time, and he doesn't really know how to handle his own emotions. But looking back, realizing that I related so much to Raphael after learning that I had this problem that I didn't understand, that I didn't know how to control, and there are whole episodes and entire segments where the show focuses on helping Raphael learn to not be as angry and violent. And those things helped me so much before I got my diagnosis and started taking medication, that it was just something that really helped me, and it showed that kind of I wasn't alone in being angry for no reason. And yeah, Raphael is a very fictional character. He is a turtle that got mutated into a ninja thing, but he's the way he was portrayed as a person and as a teenager especially was super important to me. Just seeing someone that saved the world had the same problems as I had. Looking back further to every single favorite character I had, be it in Ninjago, where I really liked Kai, and Avatar, where I really liked Zuko and Sokka, and in Legend of Korra, where I really liked Cora, she had anger. I look at all my favorite characters and I realize I love them so much because I could relate to them and they helped me deal with some things that I did have going on in my mind. And that's why it's so important for shows that kids watch to not just be stupid and silly and to have actual episodes and like things that happen that explain what you're going through. Because assuming, especially if you're writing these cartoons, assuming that those cartoons can only be silly and they don't have any impact in anyone's real life is really not cool, and it actually makes the plot suck. So what do you want from me? There's another thing that I should probably bring up is a thing called kinning. I'll put the word here because that's a weird word. Essentially, this is when somebody identifies so much with a fictional character or even a person that they know that was real in like history or something that they kind of identify. I don't know a lot about it because I don't really experience this much, where it's like either a past life kind of thing or you identify like I am this person. I'm not going to talk about it a lot because, as I said, I don't really think about it that much. I'm not really part of that community, but it is something that is valid and is a way for people to express themselves through fiction, and I think that's really amazing. And yes, you can relate to characters that aren't cartoon characters. Sometimes it's easier to relate to someone that's an actual like human being in a face. And like I just think it's a weird taboo how when you're not online and you're in like real life saying, oh yeah, watching Ninja Turtles helped me with my anger issues. If you say that on like Tumblr, people will be like, yeah, that makes total sense because everyone on Tumblr is either like crazy or awesome. There's no in between. But if you say that in real life, just like in everyday conversation, people are going to think you're kind of weird, probably a nerd, which, not going to lie, we are all nerds. But yeah, it's just something that is a weird taboo that I've started to realize recently because I talk about it to like my parents and they don't really understand. Like, but yeah, I just think it's really interesting how just different people can relate to and see these fictional characters, because especially when I would talk to my sister about Ninja Turtles, she doesn't watch it as much as I do, but she thought it was really weird that I really liked Raphael because he was my favorite turtle, but then her favorite turtle was Leonardo, and they always have this friction between them, and she did not like that Raphael was angry and a jerk and just violent all the time, and that just reflects who she is, because she's a kind of anxious person, and she is more like either Leonardo or Donatello, whereas I would probably be most like Raphael, and if I wasn't angry, Michelangelo. So it's just a whole different thing, and the way that, in fact, society has accepted some of this, like Hogwarts houses, you say, oh yeah, I'm a Slytherin. No one bats an eye at that because, oh yeah, that's a thing. We were raised in the many, many Harry Potter generations that we all know are Hogwarts house. We all know who we were most like in the Harry Potter universe, but when we go to other, like, lesser known fan bases, people think you're weird for it. So I just find it really interesting how different people see the world based on the media they consume and like who they relate to, and how it's, if you find out someone's favorite character, you might find out a little bit more about that person, because they're not just gonna love watching I don't know, like no one's gonna have the favorite character of like the Shredder if they don't relate to him at all, or if they don't like villains. I really love villains, and the Shredder is one of my favorite characters. Not one of my favorite turtles, because he's not a turtle, but it's just interesting to see the different ways people see the world based on how they view different media, because someone can watch one episode of any show and have an opinion on it, and another person can have a completely different opinion on the same episode, having the exact same watching experience. They will understand the episode and will understand the media and the message portrayed in completely different ways, because that's just how people are, and it's really fascinating to me. So yeah, don't be afraid to talk about your favorite media, even if it is a cartoon, and even if you do like a character that's generally disliked. I'm sure you have good reasons. And don't be rude to people who talk about these media that they consume and like and identify with, because if you do that, you're just kind of a jerk or uneducated or both. So yeah, if you like this video, go ahead and like, subscribe below. If you have anything to say, or if you want to talk about your favorite Ninja Turtle characters, tell me in the comments below. You can also subscribe by hitting a bubble right here on the screen, and you can see my last video up here on the screen. That's everything for today, so hasta la pasta. I'll see you next time.